January 20th. Dear Daddy Longlegs, did you ever have a sweet baby girl who was stolen from the cradle in infancy? Maybe I am she. If we were in a novel, that would be the denouement, wouldn't it? It's really awfully queer not to know what one is. Sort of exciting and romantic. There are such a lot of possibilities. Maybe I'm not American. Lots of people aren't. I may be straight descended from the ancient Romans, or I may be a Viking's daughter, or I may be the child of a Russian exile and belong by rights in a Siberian prison. Or maybe I'm a gypsy. I think perhaps I am. I have a very wandering spirit, though I haven't as yet had much chance to develop it. Do you know about that one scandalous blot in my career? The time I ran away from the asylum because they punished me for stealing cookies? It's down in the books free for any trustee to read. But really, Daddy, what could you expect? When you put a hungry little 9-year girl in the pantry scouring knives with the cookie jar at her elbow and go off and leave her alone, and then suddenly pop in again, wouldn't you expect to find her a bit crummy? And then when you jerk her by the elbow and box her ears and make her leave the table when the pudding comes, and tell all the other children that it's because she's a thief, wouldn't you expect her to run away? I only ran 4 miles. They caught me and brought me back, and every day for a week I was tied like a naughty puppy to a stake in the backyard while the other children were out at recess. Oh dear, there's the chapel bell. And after chapel, I have a committee meeting. I'm sorry because I meant to write you a very entertaining letter this time. Auf Wiedersehen, Chair Daddy. Pax Tibi, Judy. P.S. There's one thing I'm perfectly sure of. I'm not a Chinaman. February 4th. Dear Daddy Longlegs, Jimmy McBride has sent me a Princeton banner as big as one end of the room. I am very grateful to him for remembering me, but I don't know what on earth to do with it. Sally and Julia won't let me hang it up. Our room this year is furnished in red. And you can imagine what an effect we'd have if I added orange and black. But it's such nice, warm, thick felt. I hate to waste it. Would it be very improper to have it made into a bathrobe? My old one shrank when it was washed. I've entirely omitted of late telling you what I am learning. But though you might not imagine it from my letters, my time is exclusively occupied with study. It's a very bewildering matter to get educated in 5 branches at once. The test of true scholarship, says chemistry professor, is a painstaking passion for detail. Be careful not to keep your eyes glued to detail, says history professor. Stand far enough away to get a perspective on the whole. You can see with what nicety we have to trim our sails between chemistry and history. I like the historical method best. If I say that William the Conqueror came over in 1492 and Columbus discovered America in 1100 or 1066 or whenever it was, that's a mere detail that the professor overlooks. It gives a feeling of security and restfulness to the history recitation that is entirely lacking in chemistry. Sixth hour bell. I must go to the laboratory and look into a little matter of acids and salts and alkalis. I've burned a hole as big as a plate in the front of my chemistry apron with hydrochloric acid. If the theory worked, I ought to be able to neutralize that hole with good strong ammonia, oughtn't I? Examinations next week, but who's afraid? Yours ever, Judy. March 5th. Dear Daddy Longlegs, there is a March wind blowing and the sky is filled with heavy, black, moving clouds. The crows in the pine trees are making such a clamor. It's an intoxicating, exhilarating calling noise. You want to close your books and be off over the hills to race with the wind. We had a paper chase last Saturday over 5 miles of squashy cross country. The fox, composed of 3 girls and a bushel or so of confetti, started half an hour before the 27 hunters. I was one of the 27. 8 dropped by the wayside. We ended 19. The trail led over a hill, through a cornfield, and into a swamp, where we had to leap lightly from hummock to hummock. Of course, half of us went in ankle deep. We kept losing the trail and wasted 25 minutes over that swamp. Then up a hill, through some woods, and in at a barn window. The barn doors were all locked, and the window was up high and pretty small. I don't call that fair, do you? But we didn't go through. We circumnavigated the barn and picked up the trail where it issued by way of a low shed roof onto the top of a fence. The fox thought he had us there, but we fooled him. Then, straight away, over 2 miles of rolling meadow and awfully hard to follow, for the confetti was getting sparse. The rule is that it must be at the most 6 feet apart, but they were the longest 6 feet I ever saw. Finally, after 2 hours of steady trotting, we tracked Monsieur Fox into the kitchen of Crystal Spring. That's a farm where the girls go in bobsleighs and hay wagons for chicken and waffle suppers. And we found the 3 foxes placidly eating milk and honey and biscuits. They hadn't thought we would get that far. They were expecting us to stick in the barn window. Both sides insist that they won. I think we did, don't you? Because we caught them before they got back to the campus. Anyway, all 19 of us settled like locusts over the furniture and clamored for honey. There wasn't enough to go round, but Mrs. Crystal Spring, that's our pet name for her, she's by rights a Johnson, brought up a jar of strawberry jam and a can of maple syrup, just made last week, and 3 loaves of brown bread. We didn't get back to college till 6:30, half an hour late for dinner, and we went straight in without dressing and with perfectly unimpaired appetites. Then we all cut evening chapel, the state of our boots being enough of an excuse. I never told you about examinations. I passed everything with the utmost ease. I know the secret now, and I'm never going to flunk again. I shan't be able to graduate with honors, though, because of that beastly Latin prose and geometry freshman year. But I don't care. What's the hodds so long as you're happy? That's a quotation. I've been reading the English classics. Speaking of classics, have you ever read Hamlet? If you haven't, do it right off. It's perfectly corking. I've been hearing about Shakespeare all my life, but I had no idea he really wrote so well. I always suspected him of going largely on his reputation. I have a beautiful play that I invented a long time ago when I first learned to read. I put myself to sleep every night by pretending I'm the person, the most important person, in the book I'm reading at the moment. At present, I'm Ophelia, and such a sensible Ophelia. I keep Hamlet amused all the time and pet him and scold him and make him wrap up his throat when he has a cold. I've entirely cured him of being melancholy. The king and queen are both dead, an accident at sea, no funeral necessary, so Hamlet and I are ruling in Denmark without any bother. We have the kingdom working beautifully. He takes care of the governing, and I look after the charities. I have just founded some first-class orphan asylums. If you or any of the other trustees would like to visit them, I shall be pleased to show you through. I think you might find a great many helpful suggestions. I remain, sir, yours most graciously, Ophelia, Queen of Denmark.